Okay, go for it.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's V, the Grill Economist, and it is Thursday, 12 p.m. on the eastern seaboard of the United States. And you know what time it is? It is time to hang with Harley. And Harley Schlanger is somebody who needs no introduction. The man himself is here to give he's the voice of reason on the geostrategic and geopolitical geoeconomic stage. Without further ado, Harley, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, V. How are you?
I'm doing great, my man. I'm just grinding along, Harley, watching the all the shenanigans as it seems that Hillary Clinton and more of the establishment from Hollywood to DC is literally crumbling and falling apart like a house of cards, Harley.
Well, we said it would happen that they're going with a false narrative all the way. And when you lie all the way,
Yeah,
at some point, someone's going to say you're lying. And I think what we saw with the
right.
Harvey Weinstein case is kind of interesting because here's a guy who's been doing this for what, 30 years, 25 years? And all these women were quiet. And then all of a sudden, it comes out, and what happens? It blows up, and not in just in his face, but in even in George Herbert Walker Bush's face. So, and I have to say, I'm not too sad to see old man Bush in some trouble on this thing.
Oh, me too.
Just surprised Barbara didn't smack him out of his wheelchair. Now, on the more serious side of this, look, there's such a giant disconnect between the media and reality. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. You've seen with this 19th Party Congress of the Chinese Communist Party, um, an event which was fairly extraordinary in that Xi Jinping essentially cemented his position for 5 more years. What's the media focus? Uh, where are the successors? You know, nothing about what was said at the conference. The fact
Right.
that you had a government which said their purpose is to make a beautiful China and to make sure the people of their country are happy, that they would end poverty by 2020. A number of other things that he said. But the point I want to make is while the US media was running stories about Xi is the new Stalin, Xi is the new Hitler, Xi is the new Genghis Khan, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, calls him up and says, congratulations, this was a great Congress. It looks like you got done what you wanted to do, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Very
Now,
nice.
what is it that Trump knows that the media doesn't know? Well, this is why they're trying to get rid of Trump.
Mm.
Because the other thing Trump said afterwards, he said on Fox News yesterday, what's wrong with me talking with Putin and Xi Jinping? Wouldn't the world be a better place if the US, Russia, and China were working together? And this is such a simple
Exactly.
point. Now, then you brought up the Hillary Clinton question. Uh, Boy, do some people have egg on their face now. But I mean, we knew that Hillary was in some way involved in this Christopher Steele sex dossier. Uh, I'm just surprised it wasn't about someone else other than Trump, maybe her husband. But the interesting thing on this is that after all the talk of how the intelligence community has done their research, they all agree that there's Russian meddling. What does it all come down to? The Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, and Hillary Clinton paid this firm, Fusion GPS, which hired a British firm called Orbis that employed, or one of the founders of Orbis is a man named Christopher Steele, ex MI6. And he used his supposed Russian contacts to put together a series of memos that alleged that Trump was cavorting with prostitutes in a Moscow hotel and that Putin
Right.
had the video. Now,
Yeah.
they've spent 9 months investigating it. Mueller is going through this thing with a fine tooth comb. He's probably interviewing every prostitute he can find in Moscow. He's probably bringing in some Ukrainian prostitutes to Moscow to lie about having been there.
Right. You know what's funny? I think with this whole entire thing, Harley, you there? Harley? Harley.
I think his audio dropped. I'll send him a quick email, V.
Yeah. I mean, with this whole entire thing with Orbis and Fusion GPS, I recommend Fusion change their names from Fusion to Confusion and Orbis to Orphis, because that is exactly what this dossier has done to this entire Russia scandal, Russia gate, and the fact that these sycophants, these driveling sycophants, were frothing in the mouth that Donald Trump Jr. had some sort of an email, collaboration with some Russian lawyer, which later on turned out to be false. But that didn't stop the sycophant left to scream bloody murder and threaten him from everything from disclose everything to throw him in jail. And now we hear complete silence from the media, little blurbs with no.
Hello.
Yes, Harley, there you are. You're back.
Yeah, my computer just shut down. That was completely strange.
Nothing's coincidence these days, Harley.
Yeah. Well, just
But
after we were talking about sex spies and scandals,
yeah, we were talking about Ukrainian prostitutes going over there, and I
yeah.
was just talking about how Fusion should be renamed Confusion, Confusion 411, and Orbis should be renamed Orphis. But go ahead, Harley.
Well, so what is it we're talking about? The whole operation was a classic inside job. You had the Brits going with Hillary Clinton to produce a dossier that's completely fake, that was then introduced to the FBI by John McCain. Now, the FBI, this guy Steele, I don't know if you know this, but he worked for a long time with the FBI on Eurasian organized crime investigations. So it's not as though there's this independent.
I'm sure Steele was very successful in that.
Well, so far he obviously hasn't helped Mueller find Eurasian organized crime in Trump Tower. But the point is that this was all done for one purpose, which was when Hillary lost, to shut down Trump and to stop the potential for an alliance with Russia. And that's what the whole thing is. Now, one of the other things I find interesting is all the media suddenly falling in love with Corker and Flake. One of the things that Corker did was he was the leader in the new sanctions bill against Russia. And he was the guy who brought in Bill Browder, the thug who used his hedge fund to loot Russia. And then when Putin shut it down, to come up with the charge that Putin killed his attorney, who turns out wasn't even an attorney. So, Corker's part of this network as well. Corker never endorsed Trump. Or I'm sorry, Flake never endorsed Trump. Corker, I think, did endorse Trump, but never really helped him. Right. So we're seeing a coalescence in both parties and in the media around a pile of crap called a sex dossier. And this is what the American people have been fed nonstop for 9 months, and the American people still don't buy it.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, Corky and Flake, perfect names for these guys. Perfect names.
What do you call them? Quirky?
I call them Corky. Corky and Flake. That's what I call them. Yeah. So these guys, you see, they don't get it that nobody's believing their narratives. It doesn't matter anymore. The American people are not buying it. The funniest thing, it's comical at this point that they still don't get it. And I guarantee right now, Hillary Clinton and her hubris, the woman is still looking to run for presidency in 2020, Harley.
Oh, I know. But let me give you another example. The British TV4, Channel 4, which is one of the major stations, networks in Britain, had a documentary called Trump and Russia, Sex, Spies, and Scandals. And in it, they went through all of the hearsay and all of the reports, the anonymous reports. And then after doing this, they bring in someone from Atlantic, Franklin Four. And he says, well, the fact is it's all circumstantial, but there are a lot of circumstances. So they even admit there's nothing there. I like this term, a big nothing burger. It's a nothing burger without a bun.
Right.
So meanwhile, what does Trump say? Trump says, I'm going to Asia. I'm going to meet with Xi Jinping. I'll probably meet with Putin. What's wrong with that?
Right.
We're going to work out some deals. And I have it from some sources in Washington that what they're working on behind the scenes is the possibility of Japan and China ponying up somewhere between 15 and 25, even maybe $35 billion for investment in US infrastructure as a way to
Wow.
kick off this $1 trillion program that Trump says he wants. Now, if this happens, if Trump's able to go to Asia and follow this thing through, what does that say for all the people who are arguing that you can't come up with the money, we're broke, no one will build infrastructure? Well, the Chinese are building infrastructure. They're investing money in projects that have a future. We're investing money in this country, the banks are, in paper that's already known to be worthless 3 or 4 times over.
Correct.
Who's ultimately going to succeed? And the only way to stop it is to destroy the United States, which is what the deep state is trying to do.
Yeah, they're trying to emulate the entire United States. It's like they're trying to burn the entire boat so nobody gets off the island.
Well, and the worst thing about it is you saw these has-beens the other day, the 2 Bushes, Obama, and the irony is that you put those 4 guys together and they make Jimmy Carter look good. You know, Jimmy Carter said Trump's being treated poorly. No president has had to put up with what Trump's putting up with. So Carter at least has a little bit of guts in him now. He didn't have much when he was president, but I'm telling you, it's really ironic when you see the 2 Bushes, Obama and Clinton, practically in a menage a quatre.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, they all took pictures together with that Pop-Tart singer, Lady Gaga, and I think that brings them some legitimacy, Harley, on the international stage.
Well, I guess so. But you know, I think the point is that the proverbial chickens are coming home to the proverbial roost. And the trip to Asia could be a complete entry point into the new paradigm for the United States. And this is what we have to fight for, that you cannot continue with the present financial system and expect a good ending. There's no way that they can resolve this. And
yes.
I just wrote about Gary Cohn, what he had to say, where he was talking about the clearinghouses that were set up under Dodd-Frank to supposedly make derivatives transparent. And he didn't say this in his talk, but the clearinghouses have not made them transparent. But what they've done,
covered them up even more.
Yeah, and they've created a bigger vulnerability because the clearinghouses don't have the money to back up the derivatives they're supposedly there to clear. Bingo. In case there's a bad derivative trade.
Correct.
What Cohn said is it's at least 278 trillion in interest rate derivatives that go through there. And he said it's a staggering sum and we have no resolution in case there's a problem. Now, what that means, and people should really study this to get a sense of it. If a derivative trade goes bad, what does that set in motion? Everyone holding similar financial paper is going to try to liquidate it immediately because they know it will fall down to nothing. So they'll try and get whatever cash they can get for it. So you start a race to the bottom.
Right. And then there's no underlying asset in that whole equation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And who's going to come up with the money when the clearinghouses don't have it? The federal government, 278 trillion. Where's that going to come from? So it's a house of cards on top of a giant bubble on top of a flammable liquid with someone ready to drop a match. And, you know, people who are sitting there saying, well, you've been saying that for a long time. When's it going to happen? I don't know when it's going to happen. Could happen at any time.
The point is it's going to happen.
And the people who are trying to look the other way.
Harley, we lose your audio? V, you there? Oh, it's
I'm
back.
here.
Never mind. You're okay now.
Yeah.
You dropped for just a moment, Harley.
All right. Well, sooner or later, it's going to blow. And the fact that it hasn't blown yet doesn't mean that it's solid growth, because there's nothing underneath it. And
Yeah,
I think this is the
exactly
point
correct.
that you've been talking about for years, V. This is what Mr. LaRouche has been warning about. You take away a physical economy, and what do you have? Worthless paper that is only worth something when people are willing to trade it. And that's called a Ponzi scheme.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely correct,
That's where
man.
we are.
Absolutely correct.
And the fact that the president, who knows something about bankruptcy, having been through a few of them, recognizes a bankrupt country when he sees it. And he's looking for
Yes.
where are there tangible assets that we can get involved with. And I think if when he actually goes to China, and I hope Xi puts him on one of these high-speed trains, because
Oh
I'm
man.
sure he'll be so excited, to not be on one of the subways in New York City or one of the trains that can't quite make it under the Hudson River, to actually see a train system that functions. And this is what the Chinese are talking about. This is why they were so excited. There's a poll that came out in China that said that 87% of the population there says they like the direction of the country. Now compare that with our
Wow.
country. I think it's about 30%.
But then the Americans will say, that's communist China. Those
Yeah.
figures are fake.
Yep. And that's exactly what they say. And what they're missing is that, as Xi Jinping says, it's socialism with Chinese characteristics. And one of the characteristics is it's not really socialism.
Correct. It's mercantilism.
Well, where do you have socialism with billionaires?
Exactly.
So I think America, if the American people really look at what's going on in China, and not in the New York Times or the Washington Post or CNN or Fox News or these propaganda joints, but if they actually read something, go to Russia Today, go to one of the Chinese networks. You don't have to believe them. Just look at what they're saying, and then compare it with what you actually know. I think the American people will be very excited to see that there's a government which, with all its flaws and all its problems, is trying to do things for the future for its people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Trump wants to do. And he's limited by some of the fact that he doesn't know that much about how to make government work. But he's also been limited by the fact that the deep state has been out to deep six him from the day he came in. Schumer was right. You remember what Schumer said? You go against these guys and they'll cut you 6 ways from Sunday.
Yep.
That's what they've been doing.
Exactly. Harley, what else is on your radar, and your closing comments on how people could follow the work of LaRouche PAC and the Schiller Institute and how important that is?
Well, what we've just done is we've launched a new page for me on the LaRouche PAC website so that people can go and see the articles I'm writing. I don't know whether you call it a blog or what, but my articles are being posted, and the way you get to it is you type in lpac.co/Harley. So it's lpac.co/Harley. And that will give you access to my articles. And I think what I'll do also is just put up a note for people who go there to remind them to go to Rogue Money for the Thursday Hanging with Harley interviews. So it's a place where you can go to be in touch with me also. If you leave your name and information, we'll make sure you get regular emails and updates. Now, the other thing we have going, as you know, is the Thursday afternoon webcasts with Mrs. LaRouche in English, and that's at the newparadigm.schillerinstitute.com. Maybe we'll try and simplify that, but for the moment, you have to go to newparadigm.schillerinstitute.com.
Awesome. And with that being said, folks, you could, again, check out LaRouchePAC.com, theshillerinstitute.com, and all the websites that Harvey has spoken about. We'll link directly to the description page on the bottom. And also, you can follow us on Twitter at @RogueMoney and RogueMoney.net. With that being said, thank you all for listening in, and Harley will be back next week, same time, same channel. So please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That being said, we're over and out. Take it away, CJ.